What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on my channel, and today we're going to talk about the coaches. We're going to review the coaches' performance for 2018, my new series called The Fallout, where we'll be talking about each department of our club in terms of position. So you've got midfield, forward, defence, coaches, and we'll have a look at how each position performed throughout 2018. And we'll give a full assessment of the club and what to do going forward in 2019. So without further ado, let's get straight into this review of the coaches. So first of all, let's look at our 2018 coaching lineup. It was Ken Hinkley as the senior coach, Michael Ross in the midfield, Nathan Bassett as defensive coach, Chad Corns was forward development, Scott Thompson was midfield development, Trent Henschel was defensive development, and then obviously the three coaches that have left at the end of this year. Brendan Lade was our forward coach, Matthew Nix was a senior assistant, and Aaron Greaves was head of development. What went right for the coaches in 2018? Well, a lot of people will argue that nothing went right for them. A lot of people say that this is the department which is letting us down the most in terms of performance, which to some degree I completely agree with. Now, as we talk about each coach, we're gonna we'll see how what ideas they've brought. So you know, someone like Matthew Nix, who's been with us for 8 or 9 years. Then you've got someone like a Trent Henschel, who's only come in recently. Scott Thompson as well. You look at these people and then you compare them to how they work with Ken Hinkley. And I think if you're going to go say on what's right with our coaching department, I'll definitely say the defence is a massive tick. The way our whole defensive group performs and the way the team defends is top notch. You know, we're second or third in the league for defence in terms of score against. So it's definitely a big tick. You look at the midfield and you say, yeah, most part of the year, first in the clearances, right up there for tackles as well. Hit outs to advantage with Paddy Wright obviously not being there for some part of this year did affect us a little bit, and maybe that's a department we can work around a bit more and use Paddy and utilise him maybe in a different manner. Then you look at something like our forward. Inside 50s were relatively high. We got, I think, in the top 5 or 6 in the competition for how we performed going inside 50s, but then scoring, we lost 3 goals this year, going from 98 points per game last year to 81 points this year. And you look at that and you think, what went wrong? Our forward power, we brought in Rockcliffe, Watts and Motlop, and yet we lose 3 goals. It's probably the game plan of delivery going inside 50. It's not smart, and maybe sometimes that's to do with players, but looking at it as from a coaching perspective, there wasn't a lot changed going into you know, how we performed going forward, and that's what you go into the what went wrong category. And players like Robbie Gray, Chad Wingard, Charlie Dixon down there, you know, they are powerhouse forwards, and we weren't utilising them because our 6-7 forward line, amount of players that are inside 50 dragging their opponents in, it just got crowded, and in the end they were jumping over the top of each other. And maybe the other way was the ball movement coming forward. You know, we was okay. You know, our scoring sometimes was pretty good, and we got on a roll, 6-7 goals in a row. But then there was quarters where we were scoreless. I think we had 5 or 6 scoreless quarters this year, which is down there with St Kilda, Carlton, Brisbane, Gold Coast. That's bottom 4 teams, and if you're going to be a top 4 team, you cannot afford to have even one scoreless quarter. I mean, yeah, sure, teams are going to shut you down every now and then, but you have to find a way to score goals. You have to find a way to win games, and most part of this year, we were doing that. Not so much scoring the goals, we were shutting down the other team. And the perfect example of that was the game against Melbourne, where we had, I think they had double our inside 50s just about, and we ended up winning the game because our defensive group stood up, and we were able to take the ball outside, and every time we went forward, it was pretty effective. We had a pretty open forward line that night. Players like Westhoff kicked a bag of goals. You know, Robbie Gray was on form again. Captain Boak was kicking goals as well, and Charlie Dixon was very effective coming up the ground. So then, you know, you look at that and you think, okay, how can you improve that? How can you take what's gone wrong, put it into a positive spin, and you know, you can say, okay, we only scored 75 points that game, we kept Melbourne to 65, and we ended up winning games. I think what the coaching department's done this year, and you know, everyone, a lot of you guys put it out the question: is there a plan B? I think there is, but it's not noticeable enough. So that perfect example right there was the Melbourne game where we shut down their attack by using our defensive power to then utilise that to be more attacking going forward. Now, you know, transition footy was top notch, whereas we don't really rely on transition footy too much in our game plan. We more move the ball. We get it. We basically, our game plan, we rely on us having the ball and keeping it in our half. So, you know, kicking to the pocket when we're going inside 50, continual stoppages, and we break them down. It's kind of like a Richmond game plan, but we don't execute it as such. And I think with that becomes the problem of not being able to score, because then we drag the whole team forward, and then, you know, the plan B sort of not effective, because then the plan A, is not effective because we switch that, and then we go and we lose the ball out of our forward half, and the other opposition's team's transition is top notch because their speed breaks us down and they end up scoring goals. I think this year was a collective disappointment for the coaching department. I don't think there's anyone particularly to blame, and I know a lot of people and a lot of supporters out there, you know, saying sack Ken, you know, our coaching department is not up to speed, and we should bring someone fresh in. And look, I definitely take that on. I understand that. You know, you look at even our recruitment at the beginning of the year. You know, they're part of this, the coaching. You know, the recruitment. You know, Jason Cripps, I think it is. Not bringing in a ruckman to help Paddy Ryder. There's your first mistake. Not playing Billy Frampton early enough. There's another mistake. Reusing players that aren't effective in the SANFL. Players like Aiden Johnson, Jake Need. You know, Carl Amon comes in. He's one that has so much potential but can't utilise it. So is it our coaches that don't bring out the best potential? Or is it the fact that we don't have that motivation in the coaching department anymore? And it's more player-driven, maybe? Which sometimes can be a great thing, because you look at the way Richmond and their culture is just top-notch. They're going out having a laugh at half-time. They still end up smacking teams to the wall. Whereas us, we can't even afford to have a laugh without coughing up a couple of goals inside 2 minutes. Perfect example against West Coast. And that's probably the biggest disappointment, was that game. You know, you win that game, we're going to play finals. We have no doubt in that, because, you know, we're on a game out. We're going to play finals. And in the end, we lose Dixon, we lose Ryder, and we lose Houston. So what does that coaching department do? Especially Ken on this one, he can take this one bit, because we changed the way we played. We literally played a whole quarter of football of chip, wear down their attack by utilising our defence. And that was the plan B. It doesn't always work. And in the end, we got so tired from continual entries that we couldn't even hit a target, and we couldn't hold the ball. We weren't smart enough. You're going to improve and learn from your mistakes. And at the moment, there's too many costly mistakes. So do we restructure? Do we have a look at how each coach is looking in their department? Do we say, oh, Nathan Bassett, fantastic in defence. Do we change him, put him as a senior assistant so he can overlook all departments? Because he was in our forward coach last year, and look how well that performed. Do you make Chad Corns someone, instead of development, a head coach in that department? So maybe head forward coach, head defence. Or do you look at someone, you know, like a Scott Thompson and just, you know, tinker with it a bit? I know we're going to bring in 3 more. And that's my next thing, is who do we bring in next? And look, to be honest, there's not a lot of people out there that I would consider great options at the moment. I mean, there's a couple on the market. One's definitely Jared Schofield, which looks more likely than not he's going to come in, which is a great thing, because I saw the way he coaches Subiaco and in the waffle, and it's top notch. And, you know, maybe after Ken, you could see Schofield becoming our senior coach in the next 3 years or so. Who knows? But he's definitely our main target there. Maybe we lure Josh Franco back. Maybe he doesn't go to the Gold Coast, comes back home. You know, maybe you look at someone left field who's not been tried yet. Maybe we do it within and upgrade someone and put them into a different position. It's up to the football department now to really think about these options and make the right choices. They've got a lot of time now, a lot of time before pre-season starts. They must get this right, because I'll say it again, a lot of you guys say it starts from the top, and I completely agree with that. So this year definitely should be taken on the chin for Ken Hinkley and the coaching department. Does that call for a sacking? Look, if Ken didn't sign a contract last year and he was out of contract now, I'd definitely say we have to reconsider our options. Because he's on a 3-4 year deal and so early into it, club, many reasons, club can't afford to pay him out. I feel he's still the right person. I mean, you look at Ollie Wines and players that are signed, and they say, one of the main reasons I'm saying is because my relationship with Ken. And, I think that's a special bond. He's definitely a player coach, and maybe he does fall too much into not being resilient enough, and maybe he's a bit soft. Who knows? I'm not calling Ken Hinkley soft, but maybe in certain times he's a bit, easy on the players, and then in the end they're more of a scapegoat because he starts to blame them. And these things are going to be fixed, and I think the right messages are going to be put out now. And I think as a coach, Ken's really got to take a step back and really think about what he's going to do with these players. So that wraps up my coaching review of 2018. It's a very interesting topic to talk about, and a lot of people are passionate about it, and a lot of people in the end of the year called for Ken's head, which is completely understood. Each to their own opinion on that, and we just now got to focus on improving for next year. A lot of people don't have any excitement. Look, I think we look at how we recruit. That's our main priority now. Look how we recruit. Look how we can restructure, and the clean out begins. Thanks for watching, Port fans. Really appreciate the support. Tune in to more of these reviews coming out over the coming weeks as well, and a special mention to the Coach Podcast, as I'm actually following them on Facebook, and our latest podcast is out. Leave a comment below and what do you think about the coaching department and who's going to be brought in and what needs to be done. Thanks for watching, Port fans. My name's Anthony, and as always, go on the Pear.